Sara Jones. I'm the CEO of ApplicantPro, and I want to be talking to you about reinventing you. And today I'm going to talk to you about some of the defining moments of my career journey. So you heard right that in a former life I was a patent attorney. And so having seen innovation, I particularly like this quote by Jeff Bassam, the CEO of Amazon. He said, if you're going to invent, it means you're going to experiment. And if you're going to experiment, you're going to fail. And if you're going to fail, you have to think long term. Now, going from a patent attorney to a CEO, for me, included no less than 7 reinventions. And I'm not going to make you listen to all of them. But one of the things I've learned is that having seen innovation over the course of my career, I do think there are 3 things that we can and should learn. 1, be willing to experiment. 2, be willing to fail. And 3, think long term. So necessity is a powerful motivator. I was born in 1974 in Jeonju, South Korea. It was struggling with the aftermath of the war. And when I was 2 years old, I was placed in an orphanage. So this is a picture of me in the orphanage. And from what I can tell, or from what I understand of the history, the Korean government had given farmers subsidies to plant a strain of rice that had thrived in the laboratories, but it died in the fields, causing an intense famine. So I can only assume that my birth family was placed in this horrible position of not being able to feed their child. So I'm the smallest child in the orphanage. And my mother tells me when I was adopted at 2 1/2, when I would eat, I'd put my arm around my food and then I would hunch over it. And I'd eat my food as fast as I could so nobody else could take it from me. So clearly at this very young age, I had learned that I had to fight for what I wanted. In another picture from the orphanage, I'm this little kid, my stomach's swollen from malnutrition, I had worms and chicken pox, and I had gold teeth and a tattoo on my arm, and my hair was so brittle from malnutrition that it was breaking off. Now, despite my small size, apparently I could tie my shoes. I can only guess that that's so I could run away from those kids trying to steal my food. But when I would look at these pictures when I was a kid, I would say, Sarah sad. So it's no wonder that I grew up with this intense need to control my destiny. I grew up in a lower middle class family, and I've had a job since I was 12 years old. And when I was looking at a career, I heard that engineers and attorneys made good money, and I didn't actually know any engineers or attorneys. But I went to engineering and law school and became a patent attorney, and it seemed like a great career choice. So it was 2001, I was starting my law career, and there were very few women patent attorneys. And it was the first time that I had experienced gender bias. And it looked like this. I was working with a senior shareholder and told him I wanted to start a family. And he's told me that he didn't want to train me anymore. He wasn't willing to work with me. He didn't want to waste his time. And I remember it was 1 of 2 times that I cried in my career. Okay, so there's nothing like telling an ambitious woman no to light a fire under her. So from then on, I had a mission. I was going to prove that I could make partner at that law firm. And I worked my tail off. I made partner as the first woman with children, and I did it in the same amount of time as other people in my class. And after I hit my goal, the fire in me started to slowly die. I started losing my sense of purpose and started to almost lose my sense of feeling. I almost didn't feel happy or sad. I just kind of stopped feeling. And a friend of me suggested I go work with him at his ed tech company. He was doing some really great things with video technology and education, which sounded amazing. Except that I had just invested 10 years of my life in my law career. And this is where I had to learn to innovate. I had to be willing to experiment. Now, letting go of my law career, it was really difficult. I went from a partner title to a team lead title. I went from a spacious office to a shared cubicle, cut my salary in half. I felt like I was giving up on 10 years of legal knowledge that I had worked really hard for. And more emotionally wrenching was this feeling that I was giving up on the other women at the law firm. You see, part of my mission, I felt, was to make the law firm more friendly for women. And at one time, and this is at the same time, we actually had 9 women at the law firm, which is like a miracle in Salt Lake City. And I was 1 of 3 partners, and so me leaving as a women partner, it felt like defeat. A few days before I started my new job, I actually went into a full-blown panic attack. It was so bad that I had to call the paramedics. So clearly, this change was a huge deal for me. But I walked into my fear, and it was life-changing. And I learned that experimenting, it can feel terrifying, but it can also feel exhilarating. So I wish I could say everything was perfect after that. I did some really great things. I learned product development. I learned business development. I really felt like I was able to have a meaningful impact on education. And after a few years, I had to face this reality that I might not break through the glass ceiling. Because that failure to me looks like this. I wanted to participate strategically, but no matter how hard I worked or how smart I was, well, I could view myself as an executive, others could not. So it was about the time that Sheryl Sandberg was vocalizing the need for more women in leadership. When we think about what would we do if we weren't afraid, the options become endless. And because I was financially stable, I decided to swallow that bitter pill, and I redefined some criteria on which I would choose my next career options. 1, I wanted to work on interesting projects. 2, I wanted to work with people I enjoyed working with. And 3, I wanted to be treated as an equal. So having this new criteria was quite liberating because before I had chosen my careers based on financial security and status. So I went and I started a startup. And I joked with my husband that I must be doing something wrong if I keep dropping my salary every few years, right? I mean, most normal people do not do that. But it was great. It got me into professional learning and I love that. And then I went on after the startup failed, and I went on to do some other projects that were really interesting to me. And you know what? The money always works out. Because asking to be paid what you're worth, that's part of being treated as an equal. And I also walked away from some opportunities that didn't fit my criteria. The third thing that I learned about innovation is that you have to be willing to think long term. 15 years ago, my goal was to be a successful attorney. And that criteria was based on financial security and status. And over the course of Reinvention, I have been able to redefine what I view as the ideal job. When I was asked to become the CEO of ApplicantPro, I asked myself 3 questions. You can probably guess what they are. 1, would it be interesting? 2, would I enjoy who I work with? And 3, would I be treated as an equal? And happily, I can say yes to all 3. Now I want to come back full circle. The legal knowledge that I gained at the law firm, the product development and business development I gained at the ed tech company, and my love for professional learning, all of that comes back full circle to help me be a better CEO. So when I look back on my career journey, I really like this image because where I thought there were stumbling blocks, they were actually stepping stones. And so for those of you who are experiencing a crossroad in your career, I invite you to think about your journey, and I invite you to invent, reinvent, and reinvent yourselves again. Thank you.